Right, this is a friction disc from the Kyosho Scorpion XXL. This is the, I've got this on brushless, running 6S. That's two 6S packs, one at 45C and the other one at 100C, and that's it, done. You can see there where this has moved, because obviously a design flaw where this hole is obviously bigger, so when it comes out of, it moves up like that and it ends up moving out of the actual slot it's supposed to be in, which is obviously crap. So I racked my brains and asked my colleague, and he come up with a good idea. I was going to use these old grinding discs and make them into obviously the same shape, because the hole in the middle is exactly the same size, but really I want that hole to be the same size as that hole, so if worst case scenario it comes out, it's not actually going to move about like that, it's always going to stay in that position. But here we have a friction disc 1.5mm thick from a bottom of a lawnmower blade, and it enables the blade to spin a little bit. This is quite a smooth material, but here's an older one, and it's been on a machine, so it's a little bit roughed up, so I can do the same to this with a bit of sandpaper just so it grips a bit better, but just use it as a template, cut that out, and because it's 1.5mm thick as well, and it's like solid, you know, it's got a little bit of play in it, because it's thick, it actually clips in there and stays in. Obviously if I've done it right, it will stay in the, actually stay in there. Now obviously that hole is still larger, but I'm going to use this one and make one for the other side obviously, and I'll attach this to a video of actually running it and sort of bedding it in and actually seeing whether this works well as a friction material or whether it doesn't. I know when I was grinding these edges off, it actually took the heat quite well. It didn't really smoke. It was easy to grind away, but it didn't smoke at all, and it's kind of like a weird sort of, I wouldn't say baker light, but it's definitely sort of some sort of composite material, because it's got more than one layer to it. I really wanted to use some sort of brake pad. I was going to get a 1.5mm carbon sheet and see if carbon fiber would work, but you know, yeah, that's going to be able to handle the heat well, but it's going to be somewhat sort of laminated to this extent, which means that it's, you know, it's not going to grip as well. I think the carbon would cope with the heat a lot better, but what you really need is some sort of organic sintered carbon ceramic type material. I do think this is going to work better than this anyway, because this is just crap. It's just a bit of paper, and you can see that the marks where it's actually moved. I mean, the two main design flaws is the fact that it's crap paper. It's really flimsy. It's not really. It kind of melted and then becomes sticky, which meant that the clutch couldn't slip at all. It just sort of locked up anyway, even though there wasn't much, you know. I didn't go very far with the nut. It literally wasn't, it was only on sort of like the nylock on the end, so it wasn't even wound in like the 1.5mm or whatever it is from the actual spec settings. But the second main drawback is, like I say, lament about it, but it's that hole in the middle. You know, it enabled it to move out of its you know, its template, so to speak. It moved out of that and then and ended up being there. So not only was the centrifugal force out of whack, you know, practically turned into a spiral graph. But it's just, why? If you're going to make such a cheap bit of paper like that, then why don't you, I mean, why isn't it the same size hole in the middle? It's just beyond me. I mean, Kyosho, you've been making models for years, and you know, you have this steel spur which weighs an absolute freaking ton. My Traxxas Revo had a plastic spur gear on it, and yeah, I went through, you know, probably about 5 or 6 of them when the slipper clutch wasn't adjusted properly. And then when I converted it to nitro, then, you know, I went from nitro to brushless, 6S 2200 kV hobby wing max 8 system in there, plenty of torque, pulling wheelies, you know, and I'd have the slipper clutch adjusted a bit too much, and obviously because they were plastic, it used to shred it, and obviously the pinion was hardened steel. But you know, when the spur gears are, you know, dirt cheap, like 5-6 quid, I didn't really mind too much. But when you've got the pad material on the Traxxas Revo, it was an actual brake pad, like the same as the pads that stopped the gearbox in the middle, which obviously I removed when I turned it to nitro because the braking is on the engine, obviously, or the motor. But you know, I had that model for 12 years. I've still got it now, and I've not replaced the clutch on it at all. And that's after letting it slip and sound like an aeroplane taking off with 6S running across the field, not being able to pull wheelies because it's slipping that much. Yeah, it come back and it was smoking, but it's still all right. This started smoking, and look at the state of it. Split, all stuck together, and £11 they are. £11 for that piece of shit. Excuse my French. But what I'm going to do is do a video. I've been moaning about it for 7 minutes now, but I've made one. I'm going to make one for the other side, rough that up a bit, put it back together, and then I'll attach it to another video of it going across the field, and you know, we'll see how it goes. But if Kyosho get hold of this, that's what you want to do. Smaller hole, same size as that hole in the middle there, so it don't move about, and make it out of some sort of decent friggin' friction material rather than that. And £11 a piece. That's bollocks.